issues. So I'm recording this section again, yeah. At the moment, some of you already finished chapter 4 findings, but some of you haven't. I don't know where they're standing at the moment, but hope that they are going to be able to finish it as soon as possible. So for chapter 4, it's about finding, where you're going to explain your finding. As I told you guys, you have to um, put your main discuss about finding about main themes and also sub themes, and you can draw up conceptual framework. Like example, I already gave you. Oh, for chapter 5, I will just talk a bit about what you should put in chapter 5, and then I will go back to chapter 4 about your I should say problem you are facing a lot for chapter 4 later. But for chapter 5, basically, it's going to be about discussion. So for discussion in chapter 5, what should you talk about it? Where you're going to start to make compare and contrast between your finding and your literature review. So basically, you are going to have discussion on your main themes. Where you're going to put down, for example, your, for example, you say that chapter 5 discussion, right? Then you are going to have like 5.1 discussion on your main themes, where you're going to put 5.1.1 your main theme, first theme, and then what is it about? For example, productivity. Okay, so you're going to compare back to your literature review in your chapter 2. So basically, in your literature review, what did you discuss about productivity? And then you get back to your findings about the answer of your interviewee. And then you are going to talk about your sub themes. So basically, for chapter 5, it's about discussion. You're going to compare and contrast between your findings and your literature review. That's it. Does it make sense?
Yes, Amy.
Yeah.
So, Amy, one more thing for this 5.1, like the discussions on the main themes.
Yes.
So, do we need to discuss about the productivity separately and then the sub themes, right?
Yes. I was using productivity as an example for
Yeah,
main team. I don't know what's your main team. Does it make sense? So
yeah. But
even
we have
for
to
your
talk about
findings, you,
much about like main themes, then the sub themes, right?
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I think you were having problem with that as well. That's why I were making comment on your chapter 4. So
Yeah.
basically, for chapter 5, discussion is where you are going to just compare and contrast between your finding and your literature review. That's it. Okay, where you're
Okay.
going to start to discuss about it. So, for example, your main theme is about productivity. So you are going to have 5.1 uh, discuss on main theme. So 5.1.1 main theme productivity. So basically, this study is going to identify that uh, your chosen last mile delivery solution has implication for logistics operations management regarding to productivity, and then you started to compare. Okay, so according to this author, as discussed in chapter uh, 2 literature review, um, the application of this last mile delivery solution is going to have influence on productivity of logistics operations management, something like that. Does it make sense? Like you are going to mention about theory you did use in your chapter 2 literature review, and then you are compare and contrast if whatever you will mention in your literature review, for example, about um, the main theme about advantages, disadvantages, about barriers, driver, you're going to compare and contrast here. And then after you finish discuss on main theme, you're going to, for example, discuss on sub themes. So we have two options. The first option is that you are going to combine them together. For example, if you're going to have sub theme of productivity, you can discuss the productivity, then you move to sub theme after that. Or you can divide into two main sections. For example, 4.1 discuss on main theme, and you have 4.1.1 main first main theme, 4.1.2 second main theme, or you can then you can have for 5.2 discuss on sub themes, or you can do like this: 5.1.1 5.1 the first main themes, and then after discussing the first main theme, you underneath it you're going to keep going on talk about sub themes. So it's up to you to divide a section into two main section, or you can combine main theme and sub theme together. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's this for the discussions section, chapter 5, where you're going to compare and contrast between your literature review and your finding. So basically, for chapter 4, what will be the difference between chapter 4 and chapter 5? Mainly for chapter 4 is going to be the questions and the quotation answers of interviewee. That's it. For chapter 5, there's going to be like literature review. There's going to be like theories. There's going to be like discussion of authors, journal, article. Can you see the difference between them?
So, Amy, we don't have to discuss anything about anything in the fourth chapter. We just have to write questions and what they said in the
So
quotations.
for chapter 4, what would you say, for example? For example, okay, as I said, mainly for chapter 4 is going to be about questions and answer, right? But for example, you are going to, for example, first theme, when you talk about main themes, you need to have one or two phrases to have a brief introduction or discussion about a theme first. For example, I am seeing in your work, your for especially for your work, when you talk about the theme, you just jump straight to talk about the answer and the questions. But that's not like that. The best way is that, for example, you talk about theme one, productivity. You say, okay, one of the major theme identified from this study is productivity. And what is productivity? So basically, you're going to have one or two phrases, repeat or present again what is the theme, and you're going to have reference for it. Does it make sense?
Yes, I get it now. Yeah.
And then you're going to have the main questions about the main themes
Okay, so we have to.
first,
Okay, okay.
and then you're going to have answer of the interviewee within the organization you chose to analyze. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And after that, you're going to say that, okay, so after having the answer from the employee for the main questions of this main team, we also seeing sub teams emerge where you're going to draw up the conceptual framework. You remember example I gave you guys last time.
Yes. Amy,
So
about
by
the conceptual framework also, I have some doubt. Do you want
yes,
me to ask now or later?
you can ask now.
Basically, for the conceptual framework, if I try to draw it all together, it's gonna be like a large thing.
No,
So
no,
can I divide
don't
it
draw
into,
them together. For each main
yes.
team, we have each sub teams.
So I have to draw it for the main themes, right?
You
And
have to
then their
draw for
sub
each
themes.
main teams. Don't
Okay.
try to combine them together because it will be
Yeah,
very
yeah.
big.
That makes sense because it's gonna be like a large. That's why I left it out. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask
So,
like,
for example, what would be the subteam for productivity? You just draw productivity for the another subteam for example, cost efficiency. What would be the subteam for cost efficiency? Just draw like for each sub main team. Okay, don't wait to combine them together. It will be very big picture.
yeah. And also, Amy, for the quotations, do I need to write the time and the date for that?
No,
No? Okay.
no,
And what about the line numbers? Because I have seen in many analysis
no, no,
they
no.
did have the,
For example, because like you just need to say like okay, so in responding to the questions, the participants review that the implementing of the chosen solution for last mile delivery contribute to productivity in different ways regarding to this interviewee 7, for example, like that. You then talk about the quotation of that interviewee. Does it make sense? And there's one more thing. Some participants or some interviewee will have the answer you want, but some don't. It doesn't mean you have to put all of the answer for one question. You just need to choose which answers from which participants that suit the best for what you want to display in your discussion. Does it make sense?
Yes.
For example, you have 7 interviewees. It doesn't mean you have to try to find out their answer and try to adjust it to match your questions. You just need to choose who answer the best. For example, out of 7, you can take 3 or 4. You don't have to take all of them 7. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So that will help you firstly to reduce the word count also.
Yes.
Okay, but after every single main theme or sub-theme, you need to briefly discuss or introduce about that theme. First, for example, productivity, what is it? Just briefly 1 or 2 phrases with reference to talk about it first, and then you say that okay, regarding to these themes, interviewee 3 answer like this, and then after that interviewee 4, 1, 5, 6, 7, something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Or you can just say like according to majority of the respondent, this chosen last mile delivery was found to provide another sub-emerged theme, for example, flexibility in 2 ways, as stated by interviewee 2, blah, 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 why, as stated by interviewee 3, blah, 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 blah. Does it make sense?
Yes.
It's just like a not, I don't want to use the word discussion, but it's just like how you're going to change the role of answer of employee of interviewee between interviewees. You don't have to put bullet point, or you don't have to keep going on with a, how should I say, don't do like this. Place the questions, and then underneath it you just place the answer. Don't do like that, because that's just a descriptive. Does it make sense? You can say like according to this sub-themes emerge from productivity, um, interview 2 stated like this, why interview 3 stated like that. Does it make sense? Make them connect to each other.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's it for chapter 4 and 5, basically.
Amy, I do have one more doubt.
Yeah. Just
Actually,
ask.
in the results and findings section, I have seen your comments.
Mm.
Uh, so there were like one thing where I have written about thematic analysis, and then you have stated link to which chapter and section.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
because like for your data analysis is about what yours now. I will just make it. Let me just open. Is it chapter
For results
4?
and findings,
So
yeah.
you remember last time I was saying like if you can try to connect um chapter for it with each other, it would be really nice. For example, you are
Okay, so
saying
I
like, yeah, you're saying like this chapter using thematic analysis, you can say like I stated in chapter 3
three. Okay, in this
methodology
section.
section data analysis section, what section you were. Does it make sense?
Yes, yes, I get
It
it.
will make
So
it will
I
make your
can
work
write
better.
the chapter there, right?
Yeah,
Chapter three.
you just say
Okay,
like as stated in chapter 3 methodology section something.
okay, okay. I get it now.
That's why like if you can try to link, if you already get what I meant, when you look back to your previous chapter and you see any places, you can connect chapters with chapter, just try to put them in.
Okay.
It will make your work better.
And one more, last thing, sorry, Amy. So you have said like in the ethical consideration, like 3.10,
Yes.
there were many forms were delegated by the USW. So there
Yeah.
were two forms that are there. One is in our dissertation proposal, and one is there in the dissertation learning materials. So two of them are there. So do you want me to write
Yeah. So
those
basically,
there?
the form is going to be for ethical consideration. Instead of just saying in general, okay, so for ethical consideration, I will do this and do that. It will
Mhm.
be better if you can say, okay, so for example, ethical consideration, the university did delegate some forms. For example, if I'm not mistaken, they have participation forms, and
Participation.
they have different other forms to talk about, like to it's just like ethical consideration form also.
I have
For every
seen like
single years, they always have that form.
I have like an informed consent form
Yeah,
uh, in which it was written like the question that I'm 18 or over, then response yes or
yeah,
no.
that's ethical consideration mentioned about it. Instead of saying like 3.10.3.1 informed consent, you
Okay.
don't have to divide them into these heading anymore. Just saying like by adding by the US W ethical guidelines, which form was it?
Okay. So do you want me to have the picture of those forms or no, or just have to write
You can
that?
put in appendices.
Appendices. And also, yes, I may in one of the in the ethical consideration form, it is mentioned that we have to put our interview transcripts in the appendices.
Yes,
So how to
yes.
do that? We have to put it like an image or like a Word file.
Word, like just like Word normally. You're just
Okay.
saying like, yeah, appendices, like interview transcript, and then you copy and paste. That's why you have to modify it, because as I said, in MS Team the transcript won't be 100% correct.
Yeah, we
You
I
can
have
see
to
it, right?
pass. Yeah.
That's why you have to listen back to the recording and you have to modify it.
So, so do I have to paste it like because there are timestamps as well. So with the timestamps or without that?
Just copy and paste from the transcript and modify it, and then so when you copy and paste like that, there will be time frame, date, everything
Yeah.
will be there.
And
Yeah.
do I need to put the name of the people or just have to put ABC or anonymous?
No, you use the coding already, right?
Yeah.
So interviewee one, interviewee two, three something.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And for your work, you were using first person. Don't say we.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. I have to change those.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's it for discussion. And then I think next week we can start to talk about, I would say like this next week about the conclusion. And
Yes.
after next week, there will